Hey guys, let's get back to this chapter, chapter 10.1, and I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. I actually added something to this PowerPoint, so let's look at it. Okay, so when you perform the hypothesis test, you state the null and alternative hypothesis. Number two, you determine which distribution to use for your test statistic and state the level of significance. Don't worry about that right now. When we get to 10.2 and 10.3, that's going to make sense. Number three, gather the data and calculate the necessary sample statistics. And number four, draw a conclusion and interpret the decision. Let me go back and state something that wasn't really well stated in the book. Remember, the level of significance, which is the alpha, is the probability of making the error of rejecting a true null hypothesis in a hypothesis test. So we say alpha equals 1 minus c. This has a direct relationship with your level of confidence, which is denoted by c, and is how confident we are about our results in regards to the population parameter. We don't study confidence intervals in this class, so I'm trying to give you more of an English definition than the definition in the book, because it will confuse you because we don't do confidence intervals. When you're talking about your level of confidence, you're talking about, I am 95% confident in my results. You'll see this a lot in journal articles. They talk about confidence level because they want to show I'm very secure in the results I'm getting. And that's where those two come into play. We will see those a lot again in 10.2 and 10.3. Okay, I made a quick little sheet for this. Type of errors in hypothesis testing. If you reject the null hypothesis when it's true, you get a type 1 error. If you fail to reject the null hypothesis when it's false, you get a type 2 error. So let's look at some examples. A television executive believes that at least 99% of households in the United States have at least one television. And in turn, at the exec's company is given the task of using a hypothesis test to determine whether the percentage is actually less than 99%. The hypothesis test is completed, and based on the sample collected, the intern decides to fail to reject the null hypothesis. In reality, 96.7% of households own a television set. Was an error made? If so, what type? Okay, first thing to do, write those hypotheses down. So you're asking, what is the intern gathering data for? Because the hypothesis test being used is to determine the percentage is less than 99. So your alternative is is P is less than 0.99. The logical opposite is P is greater than or equal 99, and that's the null. So we write them as such. Well, the hypothesis test fails to reject the null. Since reality it is P equals 0.967, and thus the null hypothesis is false, the intern failed to reject the null hypothesis. That's a type 2 error. Okay. Insurance companies commonly use 1,000 miles as the mean number of miles a car is driven per month. One insurance company claims that due to our more mobile society, the mean is more than 1,000 miles per month. The insurance company tests its claim with a hypothesis test and decides to reject the null hypothesis. In reality, the mean number of miles a car is driven per month is 1,250. Was an error made, and if so, what type of error? First thing, make those hypotheses. Begin by writing the null hypothesis. So the insurance company wishes to gather data in support of the statement that the mean is more than 1,000. So your alternative is the mean is greater than 1,000, and your null is the mean is less than or equal to 1,000. Okay, we rejected the null. The null is false since the mean is 1,250 miles. So the decision to reject the null hypothesis was a correct decision. A study on the effects of television viewing on children reported that children watch a mean of 4.0 hours of television per night. Kiko believes that the mean number of hours watching television in her neighborhood is not 4.0. She performs a hypothesis test and rejects the null hypothesis. Assume in reality children in her neighborhood do watch with a mean of 4.0 hours per night. Did she make an error? If so, is what type? Okay, remember, this is one of those scenarios. We don't care if it's less than or greater than. We just want to know that it's different. So our alternative is the mean is different than 4.0. Our null is that our mean equals 4.0. Well, the decision was to reject the null when in fact it was true. So because she rejected a null when in fact it was 2, that's a type 1 error. So that is 10.1. I would play with it in Hawks and let me know if you have any questions. And again, 10.2 and 10.3 are going to go further onto these concepts. And once you get 10.1 down, 10.2 and 10.3 should be a lot easier. Thanks.